Welcome everyone to True House Stories. Each and every week we come right to you from my studio and into your humble home thanks to Zoom. And this week we have a strong power player right out of Brooklyn, New York. The man has made some great remixes, productions. Goes as J. Kriv. Here's the funny part. In the beginning, I thought this was another offshoot of Danny Krivit. Boy, was I surprised. I said, Kriv? For sure, I said, this has got to be Danny. And then I sure hell was corrected. I kept seeing the guy's name not going away. I kept seeing it over and over. More records I picked up, the more stuff I listened to, the more I liked what I was hearing. It got better and better and better and longer and stronger and faster and taller, all the above. So, please, everybody around the world, please help me welcome Mr. J. Kriv, known as Jason Kriv. What's up, brother? Jason.
Thank you.
You know what I need to do? I gotta be like Johnny Carson, like the Tonight Show. I need a band. I need the roots behind me.
Totally. We could have started with me behind the door and I could have walked out.
Yeah, we caught him in his studio under a busy workload as always. This man's working night and day, day and night to keep himself, like all of us, above, not only above the water, but also keep himself very present and very out there with his music. So, Jason, thank you for spending time with us. As you know, I know everybody preps well for this show. They do the best they can, take a shower, they shave, and they
I did shower today, yes.
Clothes. And also he waxed the studio. Look, he's got armor all over everything's nice and clean and pristine. It's like Christmas Day there. So, first question that we start. We know you have a mom and dad, and we know you were born. How does it all begin for you? This musical journey from a young kid. Where do you find musical? How does music find you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Lenny. It's a pleasure to do something like this and talk a bit. So for me, music really started like I was born in the 70s. I was born in 1976. So I became aware of music really from the radio and MTV in the early 80s, I would say. And my first love was really rock. And it's interesting because just yesterday Eddie Van Halen passed away, and he was really one of the first huge musical influences for me. My parents were, they listened to a lot of different stuff in the house. I think they're the closest thing they had to like the music that I'm into now was like the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack. But, there's a wide range of stuff that they listened to, but I really got drawn to rock at first. And, people like Eddie Van Halen and other groups of that type at the time was what inspired me. And I didn't, even though I sort of got into it from a very young age, I would say from the time I was about 6 or 7, I was very, very into music. And I can remember, I can place music from the 80s by year, from really going from 1982 on, because I remember it from that time. Like I can tell you in some cases if it came out in the beginning of the year or the end of the year. So really I was paying a lot of attention, but I didn't start to play or really get into music until I was about 12, when I prevailed over my parents to get me some gear. And for my birthday in 7th grade, my dad took me, I grew up in Westchester. My dad took me down to Sam Ash and White Plains and got me a bass guitar and amp combo package that they had, like the starter package. And I remember my dad was like, why don't you want to play guitar? Don't you want to play guitar? And I kind of did want to play guitar, but I had a few friends who were already playing guitar and we needed to start a band. So we needed a bass player. So that's kind of how I ended up with bass. And then bass kind of became my thing. I mean, I play guitar as well, and much more so now. I've been playing a lot more in the past five to 10 years. But bass, I've now been playing bass for about 30 years, 32 years actually. So that's really where I started. That's where music started for me, like as playing as an instrumentalist, playing in bands. And it was a long path that led me to the kind of stuff that I do now, you know, working mostly in dance music, in disco and house and stuff like that. And I could talk about that if you want,
Sure,
but yeah,
keep going. We want to hear about that. So
okay.
before we even go any further, the bass stuff that you started playing, because I'm
Yeah.
gonna guess you got the Harkey set up or something like that, like a starter
I
set.
had a Yamaha BB300 bass
Right.
and a PV Basic 50 amp. I wish I still had that bass. As a matter of fact, I've like looked every now and then. I get nostalgic and I look and I can buy that bass for really cheap, but I don't have space right now. You can see I have a very small studio. I've got about 10 guitars and basses already, and I can't really justify it. But yeah, but that was a cool bass actually.
So when you started playing with this so-called band as kids, what was
so
the heroes of the day? What are we talking
I think
about?
so-called is a very appropriate word to describe
it. Call it pseudo band.
Yeah. I mean, we were, it was me and a couple of friends making noise in my mom's basement, basically. But we were playing at that time. I mean, we were into like metal and classic rock and stuff like that. The first concert I ever went to was a Metallica concert in 1989. And I was in, from heavy metal and stuff like that, I kind of got more into classic rock. And from classic rock, I got into other music of the 70s, started getting into funk, like Sly Stone and Parliament and things like that. And that was kind of my transition into more groove-oriented music. Concurrently, I started also getting exposed to jazz through a music teacher in high school that was a big influence for me in my musical path. And so I took that, so in high school I was playing music that was kind of like funky kind of jazzy, sort of groovy music. Then I went to school. I went to Oberlin College and studied. Well, I got an English degree, but also studied a lot of music. Basically, did like a jazz performance minor. Playing bass at the time, I was playing upright bass, and just really focused almost exclusively on jazz in that period of time. And then I graduated college in '98, spent a year in Cleveland, was coming back to New York, fully thinking that I was coming back to be a jazz musician. Like that's what I was going to do. I was going to be a jazz musician. And I got back to New York and within literally a month or two realized that was not what I was going to do, that I was not feeling the jazz scene in New York. It was super, super competitive. And playing gigs to just like a room full of other really critical jazz musicians was not what I wanted to be doing with my musical life. And I ended up playing with this band Topaz because of a friend of mine who played bass, and I ended up I was subbing for him. And the members of Topaz were the sax player, his name was Topaz, and two of the other members in that group were Ethan White and Christian Urich on keys and drums, and we eventually split off and started Tortured Soul in the early 2000s. So that was like
Tortured Soul.
Yeah, Tortured Soul. Yeah.
See, that's what I'm saying. That's how the story, you come back from college, dealing with musical notation training, dealing with all the stuff to make you this great jazz musician. And what the hell happens? You take everything and throw it right in the trash basket. And
start playing 2-bar loops again. That's.
I'm back to just doing riffs again. It's like, what did I do all this learning for? What was all that about?
I know. Some of my professors would be rolling over in their graves right now.
Damn right. Say, hey, listen, it's the same with me. I'm classically trained. And here I am playing bum, 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 bum. It is what it is. That's how commercial music is made since the 70s. But it's got R&B and jazz roots to it.
I think I sort of realized that as much as I loved the challenge and the learning of jazz and just the difficulty of it, and I still love jazz. I listen to jazz all the time. But I think that I realized that for me, for a performance, a live thing, I wanted music that was more interactive, where people really what people danced, what people got up and moved around and really expressed themselves. And I think there probably was a time when jazz was that music, you know, but it's many, many decades ago. And yeah, so I landed back in here, and that's really what led me, you know, from Topaz to Tortured Soul, and all the touring and the type of gigs that I was doing with Tortured Soul is what opened up the world of dance music to me.
So how did you get the gigs and all the, like we talked to my friends like D-Train them, they had the Chitlin circuit when they were coming up. You know, everybody knows what that means. It's like, you know, the back end rooms that you play along the way. What was it like for Tortured Soul? What was involved with making that, you know, trying to make it famous, basically? That's the dream of everybody with their band. Let's make this band into the next, you know, whatever.
So Tortured Soul, I mean, we, you know, we had a couple records out, like the early stuff on Central Park, like Might Do Something Wrong and Fall in Love and How's Your Life. Central Park was one of the labels that was run by I'm telling you this, you know, but
you tell the people, they don't know.
Yeah. Right. So Central Park Records was one of the labels that was owned by Satellite Records, which was a big record store in New York City. And that was kind of like their deep house imprint. And that style of music at the time was huge. I mean, obviously deep house is still very big, and it's having a big moment again, I think. But right then it was really, really big. And so we had a couple records that had been successful, but nobody, you know, that was obviously DJ music. It was released on vinyl at the time. That's all that anybody was playing. There weren't even CDJs yet, really, I don't think. And you know, we decided that we wanted to do that, take this concept of the music, but perform it live. We were live musicians, and so we literally packed our stuff into a van. We bought a red Dodge Ram van with a little bit of borrowed money from our parents, bought a van. And Ethan, the keyboard player, Ethan White, at the time, he just got, I mean, I want to say he went online. There was barely even online at the time. We're talking about 2001, you know?
Yeah, there was really no websites yet. It was, if I remember correctly, it was just the infancy of MySpace at that time, starting.
I mean, he just through calling and networking basically booked us out like a tour, which took us across the top of the US. We started out, we went to like Cleveland, Chicago, then out through the Dakotas. We played out, I mean, we went in a circle all the way around the country, and played maybe about 25 shows in maybe like 5 weeks in the van, just the three of us, bringing all of our equipment with us, mostly playing in venues that never had live bands because it was DJ oriented music. The only place where our name had any cachet was in clubs. So we would be in clubs that didn't even have a live sound system, bringing all our own stuff, trying to plug into, like, route everything through the DJ mixer, setting up. And, you know, I mean, we did it. We were able to get by just on the sheer, like, energy that we were putting into the music because the sound was a mess. Everything was generally kind of a disaster. But, I mean, and we did that actually a couple times, like those big, long tours where we traveled in the van. And that, I think, was really what started to build the whole thing for us. And from there, you know, we ended up, after that period, and actually there's some of that stuff, like you can find like 2003, 2004, we played at the Movement Festival. And I think we were the only live band to play that year. And that stuff's like online. You can dig it up, like Tortured Soul at Movement from you can see what we were all about. Actually, my hair, this is the first time my hair has been this long since that time. It just got long in lockdown, but like, yeah, I'm on my throwback hair right now. But yeah, it was an amazing time. But that was like just sheer like will and like, you know, grunt labor, like just road dogging it out around the country in a band.
So for the Tortured Soul band, what was the process of you guys sitting down and writing these songs? Like, what was the pecking order in that way?
Yeah, so I mean, Tortured Soul was really started as Christian's project, and he was the primary songwriter. It was in terms of the actual songs, the songwriting content, that's primarily Christian. So he wrote the kind of skeleton of the music, but then in terms of the way that we produced it and arranged it and performed it, that was really a collective effort. And like the sound that we had as a group was very much the three of us.
Yeah, because there was really no real bands like that around to even look at and say, oh, we want to be like, to kind of have a go-to or muse it by. So you basically were just going what you thought people wanted to hear or whatever was being conceptualized in your mind.
Yeah, we just liked the sort of idea, and we would, when we would play, I don't know if anybody watching ever saw us play, and Tortured Soul still plays, by the way. I mean, obviously, I haven't been in the group for about 10 years now, and Ethan passed away 5 years ago, but Christian continues the project with other members. But when you see a Tortured Soul set, it's like a DJ set. It's continuous from beginning to end. And that was a concept that I think really excited us, doing something that had that kind of continuous nonstop energy of a DJ set, but performing it live. Yeah.
So where does this now come to the halt for you with Tortured Soul? Give us the timeline on that now.
Yeah. So in 2010 or around 2010, I was sort of getting a little burnt out on some of the touring that we were doing and feeling like artistically I kind of wanted to try to do my own thing a bit more. I love Tortured Soul. I love working with the guys, but as I said, it was always Christian's project. And, in any band or group dynamic, there's a lot of compromising, and it's a democracy. So, music gets made by a lot of pushing and pulling. And, I think at that time, I just felt like I had some things that I wanted to do and wanted to try to build something for myself. And it was a really hard decision for me to step away from it. But that's about the time that I left. And at that time, I started this Deep in Disco label or project, whatever it was, which now kind of has sort of faded away. But it really was kind of the birth of me, venturing out as Jay Kriv and doing music of my own. That was completely my own.
But let me just interject for a second. In 2010, deep house and house music that we know and the disco sound went very underground because this new sound that that David Guetta was coming up with, the more EDM-ish, bigger sounding records, electro, became the music of Europe.
Yeah.
And also was starting to come over here.
Yeah.
In a very big way on the radio. So how are you handling that change going on around you, and you're still locked into wanting to do what you do?
Yeah. I mean, I think at the time I was a little bit in my own world with what I was interested in. Also at that time, concurrently with what you're talking about, I think that there started to build this kind of underground but very kind of interesting new wave of people making disco edits and stuff like that. And it was happening on SoundCloud. There was a kind of a community of people that started, and there was other labels at the time that were putting these sort of revamped disco reworks and edits out. And that's kind of what I was pulled towards at that time. I was making a lot of edits, making a lot of reworks, things that were, in some cases very not so different than like what house music has always done, in terms of sampling, but a little bit more focused on the essence of the disco element of it. And I was doing a lot of that stuff. I was putting it out on SoundCloud, meeting a lot of people. I met my good friend and now label partner Aaron Day at that time. And we started to kind of hang and play music together, DJ together. I was also just starting to DJ at the time too. So I had turntables from like 2003, 2004, but it was not, they kind of sat in my room. I would get up and play, mess around, but But in 2010, when I quit Tortured Soul, is when I really started to focus more seriously on that as well. So I was learning, like really getting serious about DJing, doing a lot of production on my own, building a little network and community of people through SoundCloud that were kind of doing like-minded stuff, and starting to think about. I actually was also soon after I stopped playing with Tortured Soul, I ended up playing with Escort. I didn't have any gigs, any live gigs, and I was asked to play. I kind of was like not looking to join another band at the time, but Escort wasn't traveling, and I was like, all right, if it's just in New York, that's cool. And Escort, doing some really cool stuff, and it was in some ways more aligned with what I wanted to be doing at the time. And then around 2011, Aaron and I started Razor and Tape. And then sort of that became a whole new trajectory for me in music.
The thought behind Razor and Tape, just what was it, kind of like let's fool around or let's take this serious?
It was definitely not.
You know what I mean? A good question, right? Is it the seriousness, or do we just like let's throw some stuff out there, see how it sticks to the wall?
Very much the latter. I mean, I had been making edits, like I mentioned, and just sort of giving them away on SoundCloud and trying to build a little following through that. Aaron, who's originally from Brooklyn but had lived in Philly and Chicago, had just moved back to New York. He had worked with lots of different people. He was doing parties in Miami and other places, and through his parties had some edits that, personal edits that DJs had given him that had never been released. And like some of the early stuff, like the Lovebirds, Erotic City one, and like the Ron Bass Jam stuff. And he was kind of like, I've got these things. And I was like, well, I have a bunch of these that I haven't released yet. Maybe we can just like make a little white label, record label, and put some of this stuff out. I mean, and obviously they're bootlegs,
So now let's break it down for people that don't know how a record label works. Sure. I like to make it real kindergarten easy, because you got to make an investment here. Tell people about that.
Yeah.
What's involved? Give us the breakdown of you guys saying we're gonna do this. Now what happens?
So I mean, first of all, you gotta sort of like have a feel for something that's gonna be people are gonna want, because you do need to put some money up. You have to, especially if you're pressing vinyl, you need to put up all the costs of the pressing, and you need to figure out distribution. You need to figure out, all right, is this going to be vinyl only? Is this going to go digital? If it's going to go digital, at that time, we had direct relationships we established direct relationships with all the big dance music sites. So we had Juno and Traxsource and Beatport, and there might have been even a couple other ones at the time that aren't happening anymore. But we sort of started it on a whim. We really did. And we never thought, I don't think either of us would have thought that we would still be, doing this 7-8 years later with actually about close to 100 releases at this point, between the original Razor and Tape and the sub imprints that we have too. But yeah, I mean, it's like, you gotta I don't think either of us, well, Aaron had run a label before. Aaron had Day Recordings. So he had a little bit of experience. I had done Deep in Disco, but that was barely a label, and I had only started it a year before. But we were fortunate to work out to get together with Prime Direct Distribution, who has been our distributor since then and now, and we've got a great relationship with them, and they do a great job getting our records into all the stores around. And from what started as just like, okay, we've got these bootleg edits, let's just throw them out white label style with a stamp on them, no real info, try to keep it, just low key and just for the love, and just get the music out there to be played by people. And because we like playing this stuff, we know there's some other people who want to play it, let's just get it out. It's gone from that to now we really, we've got a lot of releases under our belt. And we've put out all different types of stuff, not just that like disco edit stuff. We've done straight up house stuff. We've done a lot of original music, and that's really the path that we're trying to go towards now, and leaving the bootleg edit stuff behind. We feel like it's the right time to be doing that. And we're really excited about some of the original music that we have coming up.
So do you enjoy reforming into the remixing aspects of your life? do you enjoy more the writing aspects of writing a song from scratch and seeing this thing from an embryo all the way to delivery? Or would you rather sit down and take someone else's project and make it your infusion to what you think it should sound like?
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately making your own music is the most gratifying thing, you know, realizing something from the beginning to completion and all those steps along the way, and, you know, just sort of chipping away at it until it's exactly what I'm not sure it's ever exactly what I want. I don't know.
That's
about
okay.
You. Yeah, it's like sometimes it's hard to ever feel completely satisfied, I think, but I think that's the most gratifying thing, is having a piece of music that's new and unique. And, you know, in this day and age, there's been so much, especially in our world of music, there's so much sampling, there's so much rehashing of older things. I think it's really important for some people to make some new music. You know, there's got to be some new classics that are going to be fodder for other generations. And that is the most gratifying thing to me. That said, I really enjoy remixing. I think that's a fun little challenge, a different kind of puzzle, you know, than writing your own music. It's worked. I think it works well for me when there's a balance of both. The remix, I think it's just the way that it's easier to get started when you're using like a sample of something. You start with some vibe that's already there, and you just decorate it kind of. Sampling and remixing are the same in that way, you know. It's a little bit easier of a process, I think. Although sometimes, you know, you can try so many things on a remix and try so many different directions that by the time you're done, you don't even know what you're doing anymore, you know. Like, you need somebody else's ears to tell you, like, is this even good? Like, does this sound right?
So this is where I start to lend the question now, because this happened to me many times over my career. You've done a remix, because we didn't go before production, because productions, when you do them, they're from your heart. This is what your vision is. But for a remixer, you think you did the greatest job of all time. You know the record feels right.
Yeah.
You send it back over to them and you get a knockback. What do you do?
Yeah.
Breathe that pause? Go ahead. Tell us.
So for me, one thing that I've learned, you know, in my 20 years or so in the music industry, is you got to have kind of a thick skin, for sure. And I think, you know, especially these things, this is just part of making music, is that, and, you know, I can see it from the other side too, because I run a label, you know, and you do too. So you know how that is. Sometimes you do something that you think is fantastic or you think is really interesting, but maybe that person wanted something different from you. Maybe maybe when they asked you to remix it, they were thinking of this one track that they loved and they liked this one thing about it, and they're like, that's what they were hoping for. They wanted you to recreate this other thing of yours that they loved, but you don't want to just keep recreating the same crap, you know, that you do. You always want to push and try different things. But
that's true, because the application may not call for that sound. Right. It may not work.
Yeah, I've had it a million times. But what I have learned is that I think, you know, in those situations, you take a deep breath and you sleep on it, and you come back and try to start fresh, you know, and try and realize that, like, you know, there's a million ways to skin a cat, and like maybe, and what the silver lining for you, usually for me, and I'm sure for you too, Lenny, is like, on one of those tracks, if you thought it was fire and they didn't like it, well, you can always strip off the parts that aren't yours and take that and make it something else. I mean, I actually, Vertigo, a track of mine, began, or some of the building blocks of that track were for a remix that was turned down, that they didn't like, and I'm not going to say anything about who or what or when or where it was.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the question. Who turned it down?
Yeah, but that became my own track, and like I took off all the parts that weren't mine and said, you know what, this is a good foundation for something else, and I wrote something else to it, and that is like that's the best possible scenario, right? When the work that you put into something doesn't go to waste, becomes something worthwhile that gets seen to completion. But yeah, it's tough, man. It's like,
All right, so
we
now
got that.
here's a good question for you. I heard you mention the word turntables, DJ, 2010, college, jazz, all this great, wonderful stuff. You were in a nightclub scene. You were hearing a ton of DJs as you were with Tortured Soul. What were you
Yeah.
picking up along the way? What was making this thing about DJing become a reality? Who was
Yeah.
it? Something must have happened. And you said, I have to do this.
Yeah. I think that some of my greatest experiences with Tortured Soul were at events like Southport Weekender in the UK, where we played a number of times and just really got exposed. And really from the beginning, it was eye-opening that there was this whole culture kind of that we we were making dance music, but we were not so immersed in the culture before we started traveling as a band and touring as a band. And just the culture of dance music and sort of understanding, I was very focused previously, as I told you, studying jazz, on that sort of historical trajectory from its early roots. And I loved feeling part of that sort of history, that progression, and realizing that house music and disco and that was its own separate strand or separate branch of a similar tree. And in some ways it was really much more aligned with what I love musically and who I am in terms of my musical identity. And it kind of opened me up being around it, being immersed in it through the gigs that we were doing. It really changed it was a huge turning point for me musically. And understanding more, I think, especially as like a kid into rock, like when I would even see, like, I remember watching like videos of like any electronic group. I remember seeing like Depeche Mode videos, on MTV, and being like, watching them like playing and be like, they're not playing, like, that's just electronics. Like, that's just machines, and understanding that, like, well, yeah, someone's got to program those machines, like someone's got to play the record. Someone's got to choose the record that comes next. Someone's got to blend it in a way that keeps the energy. That whole awakening was powerful for me. And, I think,
where was that synergy? Where did that synergy happen? Because everybody has that moment where things change. 1 second. You go, shit, I'm going to do it this way now. Damn it, I got to go back and...
Yeah, I mean, I do remember like there was one Southport weekend, there might have been 2004 or 5, where just watching, I mean, there was a ton of great DJs that weekend, but specifically Kerry Chandler, just watching Kerry Chandler play, and he was playing keys too, so that like drew me in a bit, as an instrumentalist, and just seeing like the way the whole thing developed and built, and the kind of like the way he just sort of kept like the sonics of the whole thing, really, like, it all just like made sense from beginning to end, and I remember feeling like, yeah, like, wow, like it blew me away, and realizing that wow, there's really an art form to this, and it's something that I wanted to explore more. Yeah.
Let me share something with everybody. I know that Kerry Chandler guy since he was 19 years old. I was in the basement when he had his sampler. I've told this story before, but I was in his basement in the real estate agency where they had this thing called 3 Generations. These 2 older men and him, they had this group called 3 Generations. And I remember going downstairs. He's like, look, dude, Camacho and I went, may he rest in peace, and he played me the samples on the keyboard, and it was and all those records he did, Drink on Me, he was showing me, and I was sitting there just in total awe. And this was in East Orange, New Jersey. So Kerry Chan is a very brilliant person. I'm trying to get him on here, but his management won't let him do anything until the end of the year after his album's coming out. So we're gonna get him on hopefully soon. Yeah. But it's funny you mentioned Kerry Chandler. He's a great guy, fantastic talent, It's been around. His father was a main DJ too, Joe Chandler.
Oh, really?
In Jersey. Joe Chandler was well known, yeah. So he comes from good musical stock, you know. He made his father proud. He made a lot of people from Jersey proud. I'll tell you that. Kerry Chandler's a great guy. But back to you. This is not the Kerry Chandler story, but I like to always share little tidbits with everybody.
No, thank you. Yeah. I mean, and we met him that year too, and he was super cool to us too. Super sweet dude. Yeah.
When you talk about Southport, what's that mess like going there?
Oh man, I mean,
mess. It's a mess. Always in England. I love England. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really a trip. I mean, it's in just like you know where they hold it. It's like in those weird like family summer camp things that are just like just kind of amazing. I don't know if we have anything that's exactly like that here in the U.S. Maybe like the closest thing would be like one of those like weird Catskills like lodges.
In Rome, New York. In Rome, New York or something, right?
Yeah, but it's like a weird place, but somehow it just gets taken over by like just the most lunatic diehard, house heads basically for the weekend. And the weather's garbage. It's always garbage. It's like you're right on the British coast. It's like, pissing sideways rain the whole time, but no one cares. It's just like, and it's just a party. It's and just really, it's not even like, I mean, people are definitely raging, in many different ways, but it really is about the music. It's like, and the lineups are unreal. If you're into this stuff.
Totally. Well, you know what I always said, if we didn't have the UK to support this music, it never would have came to be what it became. It never would have happened. Never. Because not only does the English clubber want to listen to the music, but they want to know everything about what you do. Everything. I mean, they're diehards in every way. They know everything. I used to go into clubs in the beginning of the 90s, and they would know every record I did and everything I touched. It was crazy. Every club I played, it was like, I don't even remember that. You know?
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of you. I want to ask that a little more about the Vertigo project.
Sure.
So you did. So you said about the remix that you stripped it back. What went into this record? Did you bring in live instrumentation? Was there a lot of stuff that went on? Get people the in-depth of what your world was like doing this.
So I mean, I kind of like when I started at the beginning, I kind of I think I just had sort of the groove, like the drum groove, which is it was samples, but it's very live sounding kind of drum groove. I a lot of my stuff, especially in the drum production, I go for a sound that is, I mean, it's sounds that I build and program, but I want it to sound kind of organic. And as something like that, it's obviously like I'm going for a more disco-y than a housey sound with it. So I think I just kind of had the drums stripped down and had this basically like walking bass line kind of thing, the octave, that thing that goes throughout.
Pedaling bass.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I had that going, and I think once I got to the part where I was able to, have it builds a lot of tension, for the first part of the song, and then sort of explodes on the chorus, kind of, and I remember I sort of had this sort of transitional thing, and I knew that that's where it was going to go, and I had sort of written a sort of guideline for what I was thinking about with the melody. And Adeline, who is a great friend of mine, has been a great musical partner of mine for many years. She was the singer in Escort.
She's French, right?
She's French, originally French, but she's lived in New York for about 15 years now.
Right, because somebody else mentioned to me that they worked with her as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mark did, yeah.
Yes, Mark, I think did a remix or something for her recently.
Yes, he mentioned it. Yes, her in Brooklyn. I'm like, he asked me, did you ever hear of her? And I don't know her. I know her voice.
Yeah. So Adeline's doing her own thing now. She's doing a little bit more on the R&B tip, but really great singer, great musician in her own right, great songwriter. She's a great bass player too. but we were in here, and I was telling you earlier, Lenny, that I basically record pretty much everything that can be recorded in this room. I do in this room. So we had the mic set up, and we just started vibing on it, and we got that. We basically when we had that note that she hits like at the chorus, and right, like that was when like the track like completely came together. We're like, all right, it's going to be around that. And then I kind of wrote out the lyrics and got the Vertigo concept, and something about the sort of like, there's like an arpeggiated synth in there that kind of gave me this kind of like spinning around sort of like almost dizzy sort of feeling. And that's where like the Vertigo idea came from. And we kind of wrote the song around that. But it takes, and then from there, it's like you've got the general idea, and then that's the easy part. The hard work is then getting it to completion, just sort of chipping away and like figuring out where all the different parts fit, the mix, and everything like that. But I played it for Glitterbox originally, and they turned it down.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, but I'm just messing with them because obviously we're working together on a lot of stuff now. But Dave Lee, the artist formerly known as Joey Negro, really liked it.
Did he drop the Joey Negro completely?
He did. Yeah, he did. But he was really supportive. He heard it and he was like, "This is a great song," and he offered to put it out and did a fantastic remix of his own on it. Yeah, so. On that one, I don't think I think I played all the instruments on that one. It didn't really require any additional. So I played bass, I played guitar, I played the keys on it. I think that maybe I recorded some live combos on it, but other than that, everything is I programmed, recorded bass, guitar right in here, keys. Yeah, it all happened in this room. Basically.
Wow, the magic room.
A room in my Brooklyn apartment.
The magic room. We got a mini Moog. Like I was telling before, we see the Wurlitzer.
Yeah. What do we got up here? I'm going to try to turn this in.
Look, everybody, let's go. Rich and famous, caviar dream.
Yeah, I know. So this is what we have. The Wurlitzer, this is normally sometimes has some other crap in it, but the Moog, and then the Juno, and those are my main. Those are really my main.
106 up there.
Yeah, it's the 106. That's kind of like, those are my go-tos. Sitting up top here, the things that are not getting used as much anymore,
MPC?
like the MPC and the 707. And then over here, actually, this is my favorite area because this is the effects land. So I have an Eventide, Space Echo, Moog delay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I can't really turn the camera around to show you the other stuff that's facing this way.
That's all right.
Yeah,
it's okay. And your DAW of choice, where you do your weaponry?
I work in Logic. I mean, sometimes I use Ableton to get a creative start on things, but the minute that I have to start thinking about mix stuff, I need to move into Logic.
So, as a producer, artist, lyricist, guitarist, bass guitarist, the whole deal, you're already thinking about mixing as you're in the middle of writing, right?
I am, and you know what? It's something that I actually am trying to train myself to not think about the mix as much as I'm writing. Especially right now, I've been writing a lot of original music. I'm trying to pull together what I guess is going to be like a producer record with a bunch of different features, and I'm really focusing on songwriting, like writing songs. And it's so hard for me to not think about mix. Like I'm constantly, imagining the way I want it to sound ultimately and trying to get it there. But that is a very different. That's a very different process than the actual creative songwriting process. And sometimes they overlap a bit, but it's it's a hard thing for me to really not go down that rabbit hole when I want to be focusing on the creative side of things. I don't know about you, but like I'm always thinking about the mix, and it's good, but
let's
like
clarify. It's really more about getting the sounds right.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
like when you're sitting with a band, if you were to sit down with a band, it's about everyone getting their tuning right. Am I right or wrong?
Right. Yeah, no, you're right. It's
So,
about the sounds in. Yeah. Getting the right sounds from the beginning. That will ultimately make the mix easier at the end. Yeah.
Right, because if you got crap sounds, what goes in crappy is going to sound golden crappy later.
Yeah, for sure.
Because a lot of people don't understand. You know, I know you get a lot of demos. I do too, and I hear stuff, and I'm just like, no. No.
Yeah.
And they think it's great, and with every right, I tell everyone, you did it, of course you would think it's great, but commercially speaking, it's not even good.
Right.
And how do you break it to someone that when it's not good? You know, it's tough.
Yeah, I mean, what I find is that I hear a lot of music that, in terms of production quality, actually sounds pretty good these days. You know, like there's a lot of people out there who seem to have sort of technical skill, engineering skill almost. You know, making a record sound big and full and crisp and polished, but the content is not really that happening. You know what I mean? Like that's what I find a lot, especially in the demos that I listen to or things that I hear. You know, I'm always searching for, you know, like some of the records that I love the most are not necessarily the best mixed record. They always have like some wonky bits, like something that pops out or some really strange choices. But, you know, it's those kind of things that actually make for good music, like the idiosyncrasies or just the actual ideas that go into it, not what happens, not the shine that you put on it at the end, you know?
No, dude, you could turtle wax a good turd, and you can have a shiny piece of turd, you know, I always say. Or you can have, where I remember in the medium house music, the records coming out of Chicago sounded terrible.
Yeah.
Not only it wasn't really the way the records were made, it was even the pressing was bad.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, we played them.
Yeah.
We knew they sounded bad, but we didn't care. We loved the content on the record.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
You know, people have to understand how important it is. It's like get the craft right.
Mm-hmm.
If you were sitting down with some of these people, what would you tell them? You know, if they came to you with their projects, what do you break to them? What do you say to them? Go away. Your shit sucks. What do you do? What do you say to them? You know?
No, I know. That's why I end up not listening at all.
How important is it for you as a producer, forget about being the DJ, to not only have Razor and Tape and all your personal record labels, but how important is it to you to work with other record labels, with your social media side and everything?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I it's crazy how like we all have to wear so many hats these days, right? You got to be a producer, an engineer, a songwriter, a mix engineer, a mastering engineer, and then you have to be your whole publicity director as well. You know, it's a lot. But I would say that I think that you know, some of the relationships that I have, like it's been really great working with Glitterbox and Defected. They've been very supportive, and they very encouraging, and it's really nice to kind of have someone in your corner who has some weight, who can help connect you with other musicians, other singers, and other people that you might want to collaborate with. That's been really nice. Actually, Seamus, who you spoke to a couple weeks ago, is my A&R contact at Glitterbox Defected. So he and I talk all the time, and we're in constant contact. I've got a lot of projects that I'm juggling right now for them, which we can talk about if you're interested in.
Yeah, sure. Well, this is all about you, dude.
Yeah.
You tell us about your Glitterbox experience. Go ahead.
Yeah, so, I mean, I put out the single last summer, Yo Love, which also featured Adeline, which was kind of like almost like a mid-tempo roller disco style track, which did all right. And, you know, but from there, I built a relationship with them, and I've done a bunch of remixes since then. I remixed the Freeform 5 featuring Carolyn Harding, Strength track, which is an old track of theirs, beautiful track with crazy crazy arrangements, live strings, and huge big production. I did a couple other remixes, and I'm working on. I worked a little bit on the Horse Meat Disco record that came out. I played guitar and bass and wrote horn and string arrangements on Jump Into the Light, which featured Kathy Sledge from Sister Sledge, which was really cool. And did some other stuff, did some vocal recording and production on some other songs.
Let me ask you, what's the mindset with these? I'm hearing these records coming out of Glitterbox. They're kind of mid-tempo-ish. They're not the typical quote unquote big tracks. What's going on with this? They're coming to you. What's their mindset right now?
I think that they are. I think that in a way, Glitterbox. I mean, obviously they want to be successful with everything they're doing, but I think in a way, Glitterbox is a bit of a passion project where they feel like they really put out music they like. You know, they're not thinking so much about whether or not it will be the banger hit of the year. I think they've had a few of those tracks that help carry the whole thing. You know, like some of the artists seem to consistently really put out some big stuff, like they've, you know, Shapeshifters, or some of the stuff they've released from like Mike Dunn and you know, they had Purple Disco Machine stuff. Like some of those artists really always consistently deliver big tracks. But I think that Simon's idea is that it's time for the world of music to get. I think they're focused on original music, and they want songs too. I mean, there's been some big ones like you know, The Vision, Heaven, and stuff like that. Big tracks. Shapeshifters had a couple that have been pretty huge as well. But I think the idea is like you know, like invest in like new original music, and it's not always about, is it going to be, you know, dance floor destruction. It's about, you know, like quality stuff. I think that's what they're trying to do. I appreciate that, because that's kind of where I'm coming from as well. What I'm trying to do, and I'm not always the kind of producer that makes like, you know, huge big banger hits. You know, I have a hard time getting away from like my jazzy musical past sometimes, which doesn't always translate into you know, the real simple, focused, effective kind of dance floor stuff. But I'm excited about the stuff that I'm doing for them, and I'm excited. Like I'm working with Damus Brown, another one of their artists. We have a new version of the classic D-Train track, "You're the One for Me," that we're doing, sort of reboot of that one, which is going to be great. They sound fantastic on it. And then an original track of mine that they're singing on. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, it's hard for me to say exactly, but I will say that they're real supportive of new original music, and I appreciate that, you know?
That's good.
Yeah.
Did you notice your life changed when you know, I'm talking about your DJing and musical career changed when you were associated with Glitterbox?
Yeah, it definitely felt like a level up, for sure. You know, it's definitely I think it's helped my profile. But you know, I'm just doing what I'm doing, you know, and like I'm not like bound to only release with them or anything. I can kind of you know, do whatever I want, and I appreciate that they're cool about that too. You know, they're not real like protective or proprietary about that in any way. You know, I hope to do a follow up to Vertigo on Z Records as they call it in the UK, with Dave. I just finished a new remix for Dave for NAC Soul Symphony remix that he's gonna release, I guess sometime next year. Yeah.
I was happy when I heard your mix of DC LaRue's track Cathedrals, which
Thanks.
I know Glitterbox has picked it up as well.
Yeah.
We were talking about that before we started tonight's broadcast. Yours a bit more dubby-ish. I remember them being from the original Cathedrals.
For sure. Yeah, it's a dub, but I had a lot of fun with that one. I mean, Dave's kind of specifically asked me to do a dub. That's what he sort of was looking for to round out the remix package that he had. that he was developing with, I think there were some other nice mixes. I think Fullamore did one, and there's a few other nice ones. But that was a lot of fun. It's always so cool when you get like, you know, a track like that, which you've heard a million times, and then you've got like the stems, the splits up on your computer, and you can just like zero in on those little things. Just that's just a trip, you know. It's super exciting. I had a lot of fun with that one.
Yeah, it sounded like you had a good time. I remember it worked really well. I mean, of course, we all love the original, you know, the original vocal version.
Yeah, of course.
Dave gave it a polish, you know, very updated.
Yeah.
Things that you never got to hear in the original pressing, you now heard it in his mix.
Yeah. He's so good with that. Like,
yeah, he's a great remixer. There's no doubt. He's a great producer, great remixer. And again, you know, I've had the pleasure working with him as well. He's remixed stuff of mine many years ago.
No.
Good guy.
He's a good guy.
Huh?
Yeah, he's great.
He could be a bit funny and off color at times. You're like, huh? It's all right. It's all good.
Yeah, you gotta know who you're dealing with, because like, you know, sometimes he'll hit you with that text where you're just like, you're like, oh, it's Dave. It's all right. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, oh, whoa, okay. You know, everybody has their road, you know, and here we are, you were DJing, you were traveling, you would play. I'm assuming you played in Brooklyn a lot since you lived over there. You played in some clubs, okay? Because if I wasn't in the UK, I was playing Manhattan. Up until in fact, my last gig was supposed to be Birdcage, and that got canceled when they closed New York.
Yeah, my last one.
Here we are. The phone calls.
My last one was going to be House of Yes on March 13th. It was a Glitterbox night, actually.
Yes, there you go. And I was actually Sunday to play at Birdcage on that same weekend, and they shut everything down. What are we doing now with pandemic? Besides drinking coffee and dreaming about what life is going to be after this ends, what are we doing?
We're not just drinking coffee, Lenny. We're drinking.
Okay, so we're pouring some other stuff, stimulants to keep ourselves happy. But let's be honest. Okay, so when you're not drinking coffee, what are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, so at the very beginning, I did a few Zoom things, Zoom kind of party things. Got kind of burnt out on that early, you know. It was fun and everybody needed it, but I think it's like, you know, for me, just having that feeling of like that you know, that feeling after you just finished a set and you're all hyped up, but instead you're just alone in your apartment and you like close the computer and you're like, it's all quiet. I like that feeling was too weird for me, honestly. Like, and the whole thing of just like not really feeling the connectedness. I don't know. I kind of got over the Zoom party thing pretty quickly. So I have not really, I mean, I've played a couple things that could be sort of considered gigs. A couple weekends ago, up at the Glen Falls House, which is a property up in the Catskills that's owned by one of the owners of Good Room. And they had a little party sort of thing, a little gathering more or less, you know. Everybody who was up there got tested beforehand and were able to kind of like be sort of relaxed about it, played some music to a bunch of people around a campfire, more or less. You know, that was fun. So there's not much performance happening really, but I have been trying to like really take this time to focus on in the studio. You know, it's real tough. Like, I think for everybody right now to feel productive, but I'm trying to make up for it with just amount of time spent on it. You know, like I think I'm at like 50% like effectiveness, like from where I would normally be in my normal life, because you need that outside stimulus. You know, you need like the world, you need the party from the weekend before to feel inspired to make music that week, or I do at least. You know, it's like very strange, and especially making dance music that's not going to be heard in a club for God knows how long is like a weird, bizarre kind of like existential exercise, you know, like, but I'm trying to just really just pound away every day. I'm working, you know, in the studio, And even if like I spend 2 or 3 hours and get an hour of quality work in, it's better than nothing. And I think I'm just hoping that at the end of all of this, I'll have something that I'm proud of to show for it and have some music to release,
Let's go back to the lockdown.
Okay.
It's a very important moment because for some of us, we were isolated. How did you handle the realities of that? Like the truth be said, everybody said, okay, now we're going to go into a 60-day lockdown. You're not going to be able to travel. You can't even really go to the stores. What did you do? What did you do to cope? Because again, you're in a small apartment. Again, with a bunch of kids running around, and you got which basically becomes like a buffer, because your day becomes, now you push yourself to doing this, and I got to take care of that. And you just go, like we call it Groundhog Day. We do it every day till the groundhog comes out and it's done. So how did we get through this? Because depression is a tough mother. It's tough.
No, I feel you. I mean, I think I'm blessed with pretty solid levels of serotonin in my brain, which is good. I don't sink into that depression too much. Right at the beginning of lockdown, I was sick. I got sick, so I said that my last gig was supposed to be the 13th. Well, on the 11th, there was the opening party for the Studio 54 exhibit at the Brooklyn Museum, which I attended. Because I just completed that. I don't know if you heard any of that Studio 54 stuff that I did, the Studio 54 EP.
Yeah, but I was going to ask you, who's behind that record label, because nobody knows who that record label is.
I'll tell you about it. But
you can tell us all about it. I was waiting to get to that.
I know it's a big mystery. So
Studio 54.
I caught I caught COVID at that event, and I know I caught yes. And I know I caught it because that was like a super spreader event. And a number of my friends who were there also got it as well. So right at the beginning of lockdown, I was sick. And then
How bad were you sick? How bad?
I mean, I didn't have to be hospitalized.
And you're here. You're here today. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm all right. I got the antibodies. I was real sick for a few days and then kind of fatigued and with a random cocktail of symptoms for a few weeks. And lost my sense of taste and smell, which was a bummer, especially at the beginning when there was nothing to do except eat. And gave it to my girlfriend, who was a little bit more sick than I was, but we both got over it within a few weeks and we're all right. So that's how I spent the beginning of lockdown, was basically being sick and like, oh God, that was a depressing time. And that was when,
So like, wait, let me stop you before we go any further. So today, ABC News sends out a report that our glorious leader, Donald Trump, says he took it for the team. He had to do this.
Yeah.
I want to ask this question. Do you really want to get sick?
Yeah, no.
Tell people how serious this was, even as light as it was for you. Tell them, because some people think it's a joke.
Oh, no, it was miserable. I mean, it was miserable, and it was like nothing I've ever felt before either. It's very unusual kind of sickness. So, I mean, for me, it started with like your general kind of flu symptoms, a few days of fever, aches, couldn't sleep, chills at times, sweats, that general sort of flu kind of misery, but bad, real bad. And a horrible, horrible headache that seemed to be completely resistant to all forms of medication.
Aspirin, ibuprofen, everything, right?
At the time, they were telling you not to take ibuprofen. They were
right.
saying,
I went and got the other stuff. I have it upstairs. Yes, not ibuprofen.
Yeah, well, all the other stuff was sold out in Brooklyn stores.
Actimorphin.
Yeah, acetaminophen, Tylenol, basically.
Right.
It's all sold out in stores. Toilet paper is all sold out. You know what I mean?
How many friggin' rolls do I need? It drove me crazy.
Not even that kind of disease. It's not that kind of sickness. It's,
Dude, you shouldn't have a store. Everybody was like, what the hell's going on? I used to go to the store. No toilet paper.
Yeah, I mean, go to the store. No Tylenol, no toilet paper, no pasta. We're just like, what's going on?
Oh, yeah. All pastas and rice was gone. Gone.
Yeah, that was. I mean, I will say that if there was any moment that I was feeling dark, it was then. It really felt like weird end of days dystopian, like depressing future that we were in there. But it passed, and it was still cold too. That was shitty then. Yeah, it was crappy, but we got through it. But but it's not fun, man. It's like like it's a weird one because even weeks after you're feeling better again, like a random symptom will come back, like all of a sudden out of the blue. Crazy sinus headache again one day, and then it goes away. Another day, 3-4 weeks later, you get fever out of nowhere. It goes away. And you can see how it's like, it's sort of like, it gets in your system in a strange way that's different than other viruses and other sicknesses that I've had. And my girlfriend there was one night where she was really having a hard time breathing and we were getting really scared and I was still kind of sick. And I was like, oh my God, are we going to the hospital tonight? Is that what's happening? And this was at a time where you did not want to be going to the hospital in New York. They were still completely overwhelmed and, now they have everything under control. But yeah, it was scary. It was definitely a little scary.
Now I'm gonna touch base with you. I mean, he says to us, don't let it dominate your life. I mean, how do you not let this not dominate your life when this is in your life?
Yeah, it's easy to not let it dominate your life if you have every medical technology available to you, all this crap that he's got that nobody else has access to. I mean, if you had offered me any of those drugs, I would have been like, yeah, give them to me. Just make this go away, But no, that wasn't
steroid me up, make me tall, make me strong,
yeah, sure.
Fast, whatever, right?
No, none of that. I mean, nobody has access to that. I just saw that remdesivir, that one, I mean, which the U.S. government paid $70 billion to subsidize its creation, now costs $3,000 for a dose. You know what I mean? So our taxpayer money paid for it, but if you want it, you still got to pay for it. You have to pay $3,000 for it. It's like.
All right, so now take us back for the horrific Studio 54 night at the Brooklyn.
Okay.
I was supposed to go, and
it wasn't a horrific night. It was a great night.
I was supposed to go. I think I was in Europe, and I remember because my friends went. Robbie Leslie was supposed to play. He didn't come in for it, if I remember. But whatever,
Justin Strauss played that night. Justin Strauss DJ.
Justin filled in for him.
Yeah.
Justin filled in, and I think Marsha was supposed to be. So go ahead. Tell everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great party, and the exhibit's real cool. And so my connection to the whole thing started with an old friend of mine, Greg Cohen, who's a producer, and he called me out of the blue. I hadn't heard from him in literally, I'm going to say more than a decade, really. And he told me that he was involved with this, and basically the brand was bought. The trademark was bought by somebody, and they wanted to start a label and relaunch it. And a guy who wasn't in dance music, but felt a connection to disco through his parents and stuff like that. And he wanted to start a new label, and he wanted to launch it with basically an EP of reboot, covers basically of revamped versions of classic disco songs. And it was it was an interesting project in a lot of ways. It was difficult, but it was really cool in some ways. I was able to go into the studio. We recreated arrangements. I had full horn arrangements, string arrangements, recreated the original arrangements of some of these classic songs, and basically just gave them honestly, the Joey Negro approach to this was sort of my guidepost. I don't want it to sound so tricked out and modern. I wanted it to sound connected to the original music, but with a little bit of a modern treatment so that it could hold up against other stuff in club play. And that's what we did. And I got a whole
T-Connection record I remember hearing. Sun comes down.
Yeah, at midnight. Yeah.
At midnight. So you did that too, right?
Yeah.
You rewrote all the composition parts from the original record that was on TK, right?
Yeah, rewrote we basically retranscribed all the horn arrangements and string arrangements and everything. Got in the studio with a few other great musicians. I have my friend of mine, Morgan Wiley, who's a great keyboard player and can play, has access to basically every classic synth. I played all the guitar and bass parts and sort of arranged and programmed we recorded a lot of drums for everything, recorded, big vocal choruses, multiple singers in there. And it was, in that sense, the whole project was really fun, dealing with something on such a big scale. it was
You did a real disco. You basically did what you would have did when you were born.
yeah, that's what we did. But then, you know, we made sure everything's locked up and punchy and you know, has a little bit of that club vibe to it, modern club vibe. Yeah.
Who's the singer on that T Connection record?
His name's Tommy Bowes, and he was the singer for Tower of Power for a while, actually. Yeah.
Because when I first heard the record, I says, "Wow, the arrangement sounds pretty close to the original."
Yeah.
But the singer is not the guy from T Connection.
No. It's yeah. I mean, the arrangement's it was modeled after the original. If you listen, there's some different stuff, like, you know, there's some like filtering and stuff that goes on.
You could tell. Yeah.
But
modernized for the digital age.
Yeah, you know. But yeah, Tommy's a great singer. He's I got connected with him through Adeline. She's friends with him.
Because we've all been wondering.
What the hell is the label?
Here's the deal. For everybody that understands what happened to Studio 54, I played for Studio later on, but Frank Annabelle, who I know very well, in Vegas, went to MGM, and MGM, the hotel, bought the Studio 54 trademark. And they had to pay this guy who owned the label at that time, who trademarked the Studio 54 name. It's just really funny. So when I saw this new thing come out, I was like, well, who the hell is the Studio 54 people now?
So I don't know about that, but I guess what I would assume is the guy who owns it now bought it from them, because I think he's now the owner of the trademark. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not exactly sure. Like, it's a little bit.
Because the MGM Corp bought the whole Studio 50. They created the club in their hotel. So I played for them back in the 90s, 2000s, early 2000s. And I knew that there was a record label floating around at that time. It was a no bullshit label crap. This guy wanted ridiculous money. He knew MGM had it, and he had to sell. For them to put it forward, he had to get the rights for that. And then now all of a sudden, here I go. Studio 54 again comes out with you on it. I'm going, who the hell's behind? I know it's not MGM. There's no way.
No, it had nothing to do with MGM. So I'm not sure. I can't speak to that. But maybe he acquired the trademark from MGM.
Maybe he got the record label side of it.
Maybe he got that, yeah.
So where is this label based out? In New York? Where is it exactly?
Based out in New York. And there's a couple guys who are basically running it now. And actually, I should connect you with them, Lenny, because, you know, since you have history with them, and you would be a great person to be part of some of their stuff, even as like maybe like they're affiliated with the Sirius XM radio, Studio 54 radio hour.
Sirius XM, right? 54, yeah.
So you would be a good person. You'd be a great DJ for that, like radio host, actually.
I'd love to. I don't know if they would think about me ever to do that, because I know they got Valentino on there, I think.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. But, you know, maybe there's a.
You never know. You know, I always said True House Stories is one of these things that doors open. You're like, I never thought of that. You never. Next thing I know, knock. Who's there? Studio 54. Hey.
Well, I will say this. I know they're looking for more music too. They're looking for new original stuff. So
I heard.
You know, yeah.
I heard. And you know what? I just got a new record from them with this young girl singing on it. And I'm like, I'm not sure where they're going now with this new project, because Vision Promotion sent out a whole mailer on their new single. And I was like, the track's cool, but it's kind of like trying to touch disco, but then it's electronic. It's like, what are we doing? Are we trying to be hybrid? Are we trying to do real disco? It's like,
well, that's interesting, because I guess I'm not even on the promo list, so I don't know what to tell you.
I don't think I kind of didn't even respond to it. Came into my box and I went, who the hell is the Studio 54? Like, we'll talk about that later, but you know, look at again. I always see now. Listen, everybody, how would you know he's doing all this stuff if we don't ask these kind of questions? I'm not sitting on his lapel and walking around knowing. People writing, holy shit, he had COVID. He had COVID. I'm like, he had COVID.
Yeah, people got that. People got COVID. You know, a few of us did.
No, he's like, he got COVID. I was like, let me say so. He got COVID and beat it. Okay.
I
And
should have a pin that says I beat it. Yeah.
and I don't know anybody that wants to have COVID. You know,
No,
it's like,
no.
and I'm watching. We right now we're in election, 27 days to election, and you're hearing crazy stuff coming from that White House every day. More and more coming positive with COVID.
Yo,
I'm like, shit, this is nuts.
at this point, like, what does he even do other than tweet and spread the disease? That's like that's the only thing he does. He sits in the friggin' White House like tweeting. I don't want to.
No, you're not here to bash him. Neither am I. Look, I've already been put in the shit doghouse for saying what I have to say because, oh, I'm too liberal. Dude, people, I'm tired. I want normality. Everybody around us wants to feel normal again. This is too
No, for
erratic.
real. Like I am very liberal. I'm super left wing, but it's not even about that. It's like people just need. It's like enough of the fucking chaos already. You know what I mean?
Every day. Which fire are we putting out? The real fire
Yeah.
in California or the one in the White House? It's like,
yeah. It's
and
like,
then to add more. Here's my position. I've made black dance music. So have you. Now all of a sudden there's this racial divide that I knew existed.
Yeah.
I went to the garage. I played at most of these clubs. I never had a problem. I have friends of all colors and races traveled the world. Now all of a sudden it's a problem. I know you must have said the same thing to yourself. Like, what the hell we do now?
I know. Yeah, it's
depressing. It's like, how do you begin? People are going to start right away, starting with the racial card. It's like, come on, dude. We're not all cut from this. This is nonsense. There's a couple of people that are acting like this, but we're not all that way.
No, of course. And I mean, for me, I just feel like, I remember what it was like to travel when George Bush was president and, the way that the world kind of looked at America. And I just know, I know right now it's just going to take a long time to get our stature back. The world is friggin' laughing at this. That nobody even understands, can understand how a country can descend into just such absurdity in such a short amount of time. I just want a day where I don't have to think about politics. I'd like to be able to just wake up and not think about politics and stuff one day.
I was thinking about that as I was watching Joe Biden's speech. I said, "Oh my God, am I going to miss the excitement of the fire every day?" Because Joe Biden yesterday from the Gettysburg Address, he was doing it from
great speech,
very presidential, very normal.
Yeah.
Said, are we going to want that again, or do we want the?
Oh man!
All right, Trump, moving. Places burning down. Nuclear bomb is on control. Do we want that? Is this what America and the world wants, or do we want peace, love, and harmony? What I'm saying? It's like
I want peace, love, and harmony. That's what I want.
Yeah, I want to be able to go out again, hug all of you, hug everybody, dance together like we always did, and not have any reason not to do that. And I just feel like the way it's going, it just seems like this is never going to end. I'm surprised I'm not writing songs like, boom, boom, I want to die today because of my country. This is what's going to get you.
Emo Lenny? Is that what you're
Emo Lenny. Like Elton John. Bum, bum, bum with the piano. Bum, like Benny the Jets. Dun, 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 bum. You know what I mean? It's like, oh. But here's the thing. You will keep making records. You won't stop making records because what the hell else will you do? Like, if you weren't making music, what would you be doing right now? What would be Jake Kriv's thing?
I'm honestly not sure. And I feel so fortunate that I have this outlet and that I'm able to do it in my home. And you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of, I'm a little insulated from some of this stuff because of that. I'm so lucky. On the other hand, obviously, it's not luck, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of difficulty with being in the entertainment industry at this time. But at least just like personally, spiritually, creatively, I have no idea what I would be doing, man. I don't know. I really don't. If I didn't have this outlet for myself right now.
Do you think clubs as we remember are going to be able to come back?
I do. I just think it's going to take a while. I think it's, we're the first ones out and we'll be the last ones back in, basically, just logistically because of the dynamics of the way the virus spreads. It's just, it won't be until there's truly a vaccine and you can kind of confirm that you're not going to get.
Jason, let me break in there. I've asked this to everybody. Are you going to take that vaccination?
I mean, I'm not taking the first one. I'm not taking the first one they release, I don't think. But
are you going to even take the second one?
We'll have to see. I mean, I'm not taking any shit that Trump tries to push on me. That's for sure. But like, if things like, okay, so hypothetically, if Biden wins the election and there's a Democratic control of Congress and things start to like proceed, if the adults start like, running the show again, maybe, I don't know. We'll see. I'm not sure. I mean, also remember, I had it and I have antibodies.
It doesn't mean you're immune, buddy.
It does not, but I will say, and I could be wrong about this, but I do have this feeling that I fought it off once, I just, and not that I'm being any less cautious or careful in my daily life than anybody else is, but I just have this feeling that like, I beat it once, I think I would probably beat it again. I feel less pressure to get the vaccine than maybe somebody else who's been really, really scared and I don't know, but I'm not sure, man. I mean, he's literally like, basically nationalized the entire like disease control branch of government. So like, it's impossible to know what is actually going on, what the real numbers are. So, or what they're actually doing. I mean, clearly he wants to get a vaccine out before the election because he thinks that's going to help his chances. But
there is no vaccine that's possible that can work in that time. I mean, in scientific terms, if you research any vaccinations, normally at minimum they're 3 years at minimum.
I mean, they could put a vaccine out. The problem is there's not enough time for it to go through clinical trials,
Right,
so
what I'm saying is that it works,
Right. It could work, but it also could have horrible side effects. You know what I mean? Like, there's not enough time to test what the side effects of the thing are. That's the problem. Like, is it dangerous for people in other ways? I don't know. So what I'm hearing is you're not taking it, huh?
I know how it's going to happen, though. They're going to say to you, you got a gig in the UK? You got to, like, you're going to Africa. You got to get your immunizations. Watch, it's going to be, I'm telling you, I tell this to everybody. They're going to force us.
It's probably not even a hypothetical. I'm supposed to play Defected Croatia next August, like, what's going to be going on by then? Who knows? Like,
if that could even happen, if that's, I mean, question mark, because Spain already said clearly, Ibiza will not open any of its clubs till they have vaccination. Is that not crazy?
I don't know, man.
First we were all like this. Well, all right, let's plan. 6 months. All right, let's just see what we can do. Then it was 9 months. Now it's a year. That's 18 months. I'm like, oh man, this shit's getting longer and further.
No, I know. And I have friends who are pretty much giving up music, or who have decided they have to make a change, that they feel too vulnerable and needs, can't rely on, we don't know when stuff is coming back. If all your income is tied to gigs, it's a real tough time to be an entertainer, or to work in the industry or anything. And it's funny, I see everybody in the UK, like have a lot of friends from the UK, and I follow them on social media. And there's a lot of talk in the UK about how the government is not supporting the entertainment industry. And like, it's like, at least it's a friggin' conversation there. Here, it's like, oh no, the government is definitely not supporting shit. You know what I mean? They're not doing anything here. It's like, and everybody just like assumes, oh, no, nobody's getting any help. Like, no, like it's crazy to me. Like, yeah.
I know. And then you get aggravated, you get depressed, and you say, what other shit do we need on the plate now to deal with?
Yeah, I just saw that, they're opening a bunch of they found a bunch of mummies in Egypt, and they're opening up all the sarcophaguses. And that's just that's the next thing that we have to deal with is like the mummies coming to attack the entire planet.
So we're going to call it the day after?
Right, yeah. That's what the deer needs right now. Sorry, I don't mean to get dark or anything, It's just this is real.
No, you got to be able to listen. This is what I'm sorry. Let's clarify everybody again. True house stories. Not I'm full of bullshit stories, which we could do. Now let me give you the bullshit one. I'm going to go play next week. You know where? At my new disco. It's called Pillows and Sheets on the second floor. We got full mattresses ready to roll. Everything's in place. You have all your dreams and all your fantasies come true. I have to say, thank God I've been very busy with all of you guys, and all of you guys every week give me a lot of work to do. Having to get this show ready it's my highlight of the week, along with everything else I'm trying to stay above water with.
Yeah.
But you're more of the electronic guy now, and you've also gotten a taste of, we're going to go back to studio life. You've also gotten a taste of working with the bands again, doing the whole disco studio. Did you guys track that to tape, or was it all Pro Tools oriented or Logic? What was all that about when you did?
Which one are you talking about?
Let's just say the T Connection, the At Midnight record.
Oh, okay. The Studio 54 stuff. So no, I mean, we didn't track the tape. We recorded. It was primarily recorded in Logic. That's what I work in. But I mean, it was like those things were, all the live music wasn't recorded here. It was recorded in a proper studio.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. You got a chance to have everybody set up, mic'd everybody.
Yeah. I mean, it was not. There were elements of it that were done at the same time. It wasn't. It wasn't like Quincy Jones in the studio, in the giant studio with a huge disco orchestra, everybody playing at once for the most part. There were some things that were recorded at the same time, like guitar and bass and keyboard parts, and some bass and drum parts were recorded together. But for the most part, things were tracked at different times and overlaid. So, the first thing that we did, the way we approached it was getting kind of like an arrangement that we wanted to follow, using the original songs, kind of like chopping them up into an arrangement. And that was kind of like the template for how we were going to build out our production. And then from there, started with the drums, recorded drums for all. It was originally 6 tracks. It got whittled down to 4, but recorded drums for all 6 tracks. And then began to just sort of layer the pieces on top, building structure out of it. So then once the drums were down, as I said, bass was recorded with drums in some cases, but then bass, guitar, keys, the sort of rhythm elements of the track, and then percussion, all the different percussion that was done. And we had 2 or 3 different percussionists who came in and recorded parts. One guy who was more of a conga player, one guy who played timbales and other Latin percussion. Like the big timbale stuff you hear on the At Midnight, the T Connection track, and then got all the singers in. The different singers had a bunch of different vocal sessions for all the different singers, strings, horns, all that stuff. Yeah, so I mean, it was a big undertaking, and the thing was, it had to happen really quickly. They originally were trying to get the whole thing. I mean, we didn't start even talking about it until November of last year, and the recording basically started after the New Year. So I think I was in Brazil over New Year's for last year, playing at this festival Mare, and I got home I think on the 7th or 8th, and basically dove right into it. and had all of the live recording done by the end of the month. So on 6 songs, all of that different tracking, drums, bass, guitar, all the different synths, all the different vocals, strings, horns, percussion, everything was done, recorded by the end of the month, and then it had to be produced essentially.
But why? But see, this is what I understand. Why put the time constraints so hard on you?
I know.
I don't understand the record labels. Why do they do that?
Because they wanted to have it ready for the Studio 54 exhibit. That was their original idea.
Oh, so this is like a last minute, the light bulb went on. Let's find somebody to do this. Oh, great, we found them. Go run in the studio, get a contract, and go, go, go.
Yeah, but then what ended up happening.
And we lost you.
I mean? Oh, sorry.
Again. So, no, sorry. You're back. Say it again.
Yeah,
Say it again.
It became clear that just wasn't even going to be possible. You know what I mean? Like they were talking about trying to get vinyl pressed and everything before to have something to sell at the exhibit. And it just, like, so now like 3 weeks of solid recording, and that's like a really short amount of time to do all of that recording, and it was like, my worksheet for the whole thing, how it had to be done. I mean, I basically had like an Excel sheet of like calendar, like how to map it all out and how to do it all. It was like a math problem. And we got all that done. And so now it's like early February, and now I have to take these tracks and make them sound like something, Yeah,
so you had everything staffed out, literally staffed out. Did you staff it all out?
I did some of it. Some of it I did. Some of it,
wow, I'm impressed, bro.
Yeah, some of it.
Oh man, that's awesome. You're our Don Ray of the 2020s. Yes. Don Ray, there he is. All right, everybody. That's a lot of work. People, that's a lot of work to staff out a record.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have to do all of it. Some of it, like some of the string parts were the strings were able to kind of transcribe themselves. But yeah, I mean, I had to do a lot of it. But
pen and paper, go to the keyboard and figure out the chord progression because you're not sure if he's got it right. It happens.
Yeah,
you gotta go there. You gotta hit the keyboard and go, wait a minute. That's not the right note. Let's get this right because we got to make it sound like the record now.
Yeah. I think even harder than that, honestly, is like when you go through even like the synth parts, like you go through like Got to Have Love and like the Don Ray part and trying to figure out, okay, which synth is that? All right. How do we get that exact sound? How do we get that exact phrasing? We really were trying to be meticulous about it.
Which one did you do? Got to Have Your Lovin'?
Got to Have Lovin'. Yeah.
I know that sound. I know the sound.
Yeah. And there's a lot, all of those were very, very layered productions, all of them, there's a lot there. So we were trying to basically, the place where we didn't end up using everything, but we started with, okay, let's get it all. Like, let's recreate it all. And then we'll pull out and use what we want and rearrange things. But basically, what we essentially did was make new versions of the tracks to then kind of remix, like,
yep.
Yeah, like as if we had the stems from the original project. And yeah, so
you did a good job. I'm telling you, I listened to it. I was like, wow, this is really good.
Yeah, I mean, without getting too deep into it, I think I could have done it a little bit differently had I not had to, how do I say this? Make some compromises that maybe, or make some, if I had complete license to do it the way that I wanted to, it might have come out a little bit different. Just leave it at that.
Listen, everybody, there's always this with record labels and producers. And there's always this, it's a knock of the power struggle. I think we should do it. No, we don't have the coins anymore. We need to do it like this. And you're like, damn you, mother. Beep, beep. You want to blow them in? Whatever you want to do. Like that. But you deal with it. You deal with what you got to deal with.
Yeah. And
but hey, look, for what you did and what you were dealing with,
thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it was a lot of work.
I had no idea you were behind this. Thanks to the way videos, thanks to the way promos come, they don't have much who did what. Nobody knows anything anymore.
Well, I mean, I will say in this particular instance, it was a contracted thing, and they kind of have treated it that way, you know. So I haven't always been, you know, I haven't always been credited exactly, and I'm okay with that, you know, because it was understood from the beginning it was going to be a certain way, and you know, it's all right. It is what it is. But
see, True House Stories brings out the truth. God damn it!
not fake news. This is the real shit.
No, it's the truth. No, you did it. You contractually agreed to do it, and you're behind it. I have no idea, and until you just said this, I had no clue.
Yeah.
That's the question. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you most proud of that you worked on? What's the most proud thing you've done?
I think the thing I'm most proud of probably that's out there is Vertigo, and that's the kind of direction that I'm trying to, or just you know, the original music that I've written that's out there. Some of the stuff that I wrote for Tortured Soul, some of the stuff that I've done on my own. And you know, I mean, look, I've also done a ton of edits, as people know, and
no,
you know,
we don't know that.
No, nobody knows that. That part is not a secret.
Nobody knows what that is. Like,
you know, look,
but there's something that you hold close to your heart.
Yeah.
That Vertigo, I guess the Vertigo record is that record. In the same token, what is the worst thing you like to disassociate yourself from?
Oh gosh.
Not halfway. The worst.
If I say it, then I'm not disassociating myself. What would I say, man? You know, I think there was like, for whatever reason, I was doing some remixes for Columbia Sony Urban, like in the mid 2000s, back when remixes actually paid some good money, and but I had no clue what I was doing, honestly. Like, and I had, you know, I think some of them came out all right, but there's a couple I wouldn't say I'm not proud of, but I knew that if I had a chance to do it now, I could do a better job with it, you know?
Well, that's hindsight. That's playing Monday Night Football after the fact. Yeah. You can fix the game. We're talking about you're in the middle of it. You have to live with what you dealt with. This is it. You're dealing with what you did. So leave it there.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably say, you know, then in that case, you know, some DJ sets that I might have flailed early on or something, you know, like, yeah.
Floundered? Did the flounder like, the old man tells the young man. The old man Jason tells the young Jay Kriv what he should not do and what he should do. What would you tell that young guy?
I would tell that guy to this is really actually a lesson that I've learned with DJing. And, you know, because DJing is a much newer thing for me than some of the other things that I do with, you know, playing music and production. I think I finally learned, it's taken me a little bit of time to learn that you need to love every single track that you play. You know what I mean? Like, you cannot play a song that you don't personally love. Like, just because, yeah, you got this promo, you think it's cool, you want to try it out, you know, this label's doing some cool things. No, like, every single piece of music that you play needs to be something that you fully stand behind. I don't think I totally got that at first, you know, because you get obsessed with, oh, I think this is going to be a cool sounding transition, or these two tracks sound good together, or this is a hot track right now, that kind of thing. You know, I think that that's something that I would tell my younger self, you know, like, that's really important, because I have so much music that I love. There's no reason to ever play a song that I don't actually love. You know what I mean? I think that's something that took me a little while to figure out as a DJ.
Wow. All right. So you gotta so everyone, please believe in what you do wholeheartedly. Don't half step, Jason's saying. You gotta believe it. Gotta believe. Is that also applies to the music you're making?
It does. It does. The interesting thing about the music thing for me in production and songwriting is that, you know, as much as I operate sort of in this dance music format, I still have tastes that are kind of all over the place. So I think that it's always tricky for me to kind of like balance out the mood that I'm in one day, you know, with what my ultimate goals are in terms of, you know, production and what I want to put out there into the world. But I think that the lesson is to really just kind of like trust your gut around certain things, you know, like if sometimes I think I've had tracks that I was like, I don't know about this, and then you know you play it, but you did it, and it was something that you liked and felt good about, and then you start to second guess yourself later. But I think that ultimately, if you do things with like your true intention, and that it's valuable. I don't know. I mean, that sounds really generic, but
no, it's not generic. It's real. No, it's real. No, because we all compromise sometimes for the check. Sometimes there's a compromise that happens. You know, the money's good, but man, the track's not so great. We'll deal with it. Or the track can be absolutely off the chain, and there's hardly no money in the budget.
Yeah,
it goes both ways.
Those things are just sort of on a like a giant pull cord in the sky somehow, you know, like
big time.
Yeah.
Big time.
What are you working on right now, Lenny?
I'm just remixing this project for this guy, Egg Ground in Brazil. I'm remixing another project. I'm writing some disco tracks.
Nice.
And I'm finding that everybody wants my 90s house sound.
They do. Yeah, they do.
That's what everybody wants. So I'm trying to give it back to them. And it's not an easy thing to recreate something that you kind of gotten away from.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden you have to find again. But they want it like I did it then. It's like I don't do it the same way now. But you understand what I mean.
What were you working on back then? Were you working on an MPC or an SP1200?
No, I had back then. First of all, my console at that time was a TAC Scorpion in the 90s. AMEC TAC Scorpion was number one. I used a Mac Classic with Master Tracks Pro. And I had a 2-inch. I first had a 16-track 1-inch, then I had a 2-inch machine. So, but we had tons of rack gear. I had Super JX and all Juno 106s and T3 Korg, all that stuff. You know, I had keyboards up the yin yang and we would use combination parts because you didn't have enough polyphony in those keyboards in those days. You have to make combination sounds, track everything. So you had to marry it to make it work. And you couldn't digitally do editing because everything was on a tape machine. So things were loose in the sense. They weren't as congruent as everybody's so used to hearing music today. Everything is on the one, everything is dead on. We were doing a lot of stuff where you felt the shift. It made swag. I had an interview with Earl Young and I asked him this question, and I'm going to ask you this question. I know you know South Soul Orchestra. I know you've mixed some of the records. Do you think South Soul Orchestra did the whole thing in one shot together? If I ask you that question, when you listen to those tapes.
No, I don't think so. I think that probably they would record rhythm section and then layer some other things on top. That would
because
be
the first question Earl Young was from me was, you know, we saw the South Soul Orchestra together in pictures. We saw that, you know, you guys performed and this and that. And we asked him what the pecking order was, and it was simplistically like this. He said it was BHY. BHY was Ron Baker, Norman Harris, and Earl Young. And those three, Norman was playing the guitar, that guitar sound. Ron played the bass, and Earl played those drums. And on every record you hear coming out of almost, let's say 96% of the records coming out from Gamble Huff, and most of them, those three guys are on every record.
Right.
96% of them. He doesn't even know most of the records he plays. He'll hear and go, that's me. He can't remember. He said, there's so many records we did. He said, we did records where we just did backing track and they got Johnny Mathis to go do the vocals. We never saw that. We just gave them, do what you do. Here's some money. Bye.
Yeah.
So when you hear those tapes now, ooh, I love it. South Soul Orchestra, all those records. People thought that South Soul Orchestra, okay, one shot. Don Ronaldo's violins. Everybody came in. Okay, 1, 2, 3, boom. He started laughing. He said, no way.
No.
We would do our thing, we would leave, and then Joe Tarzia from Sigma, They record all the other parts in different, 4-string guys layered. So similar to what you did, as I was listening,
yeah,
was similar to how they did it back then. Budgets were tight. They made it work.
right.
We're talking 40 years ago, 40 plus years ago.
Right. No, I mean, there was probably very few records where, I mean, going back to even the 60s, like a Phil Spector production where they did get a full orchestra in the room recording. But like, even, I mean, I think about like a record like Off the Wall, like Quincy Jones. I mean, I think even that, they were layering that stuff. They were not.
Buddy Johnson played the bass guitar.
Yeah.
I mean, Louis Johnston. This guy came in, Eddie Van Halen to play beat. I mean, they had different people come in different days. Nobody I know. The only one that I've ever seen where they actually had a full orchestra was like a Sinatra gig.
Yeah.
Frank Sinatra, where they had a full orchestra, one microphone to record it, and it was done.
Right.
Most of the time, nobody had that kind of budget to play with.
Yeah, and also stylistically, the music doesn't work like that. When you want to be real precise with rhythm and get takes that are really consistent, you can't record a full band, because what if everything sounds great except the drummer misses a beat, or drummer. Yeah, like.
So before we let you go, I have to get a little serious now.
Okay.
What do we expect to see from you the next time? What's coming up now for you?
Okay.
You can't say gigs. Gigs are on hold.
No, there's no gigs. But so right now, what I've been hard at work at is I've got a few remixes that I'm finishing up for. Pretty much for Razor and Tape releases that are forthcoming. I don't have any more Glitterbox stuff that I'm doing right now. This last year, I've done a million remixes, and I'm trying to put a hold on the remixes for now to focus on original stuff. So pretty much since lockdown, I have been working on writing and producing a lot of new original songs, and I'm hoping that to pull together pretty much like an album's worth of stuff to hopefully come out maybe next summer. I'm collaborating with a lot of different people right now. Who am I working with? I've got some stuff coming that I'm working on with Amy Douglas, some stuff that I'm working on with James Brown, working with Daniel from Phenomenal Handclap Band on some stuff. My friends from this group Underground System. Basically, it's going to be, a full album of new original music with a lot of different features and guest artists that I'm collaborating with. So I'm saying it now, so I'm making, willing it into reality by actually telling it to people that, there will be an album at some point, hopefully. And there will be an album in 2021. Yeah, J. Kriv record.
Razor and Tape, or just going to be on what label? Is it?
I'm not sure about that yet, Well, I'm not sure where it'll come out, but and I would assume that I'll have some more Glitterbox singles at the very least too, and maybe the album too, but I guess we'll have to see about that.
All right. Well, I may have to beg J. Kriv to do a remix for Lenny.
You don't have to beg, man.
I got a knock on the door. J. Kriv, yo, man, what are you doing, boy? I need a remix now. Man, this has been awesome. You've taught us. You've taken us on a journey. You've given us perspective. We actually wish the best that you don't get sick again. Oh my God, that blew it. That was like a whoa moment for us. I mean, people were at home going, "Holy shit!" Wow, I wasn't ready for that one, but I'm glad you're here to tell the story.
Didn't mean to drop it on you. Yeah.
No, I'm glad. No, listen, I'm happy it's a good story and not, one of these stories like the woman that was on the television this morning with her husband was the Broadway actor.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, man, this guy had no underlying conditions and he went through 90 days and in the end, done.
Yeah. He's about the same age as me, I think, too. He's like 43, 44, something.
Yeah, it's a long journey. It's like, it's a hike, this bad boy.
Yeah.
And now the best is stop all communications for stimulus money now. Stop all PPP money. Stop everything till after the election, till after I win. I was
It's
like,
already
wow, you
hot.
got a big pair of balls to come out with this one now. Whoa, you take people's money away? You got damn right. You know, if they like you now, they ain't gonna like you then. You take someone's cash. I always said, you want to hurt somebody? Don't hurt them anyway. Take their money. Watch what happens. You take someone's cash flow. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well,
Crazy times, dude, in the USA. My European, my Australian friends every morning are writing to me shit like, is he nuts? I'm like, I don't know
yeah.
what to say. The place is burning down around me. I don't know what to do. It's like which fire I put out first. You know, it's like disco fire. The roof is on fire. We don't need no water. Let the mother burn. You know, it's like that. Literally like that now. Let it burn. Let it burn down. Shit. I miss the UK. I miss traveling. Oh my God. Oh, I miss
I
traveling.
do too. Yeah, I do
I
too.
bet you do.
And I
too.
mean,
This is
man,
something.
this is the first time, like, since I started playing music over 30 years ago, you know, that I've gone this long without a gig. You too, I'm sure. It's like, it's, you know, I forget about that sometimes, but like,
What's a
yeah,
gig?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
teaching? I don't know what that is anymore.
yeah.
I'm a gardener, a chef, you know, I'm anything that I could be around here. It's like that's my life right now. It's like you just do everything to stay busy, do what you do, and hope for the best. The miracles are coming.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you again, Mr. Kriv. And it's not
Yeah.
Danny Kriv, it is Jason Kriv.
No relation.
No relation. Jason, what background are you?
It's Russian. The name is Russian.
Really?
Yeah, Krivlov. Yeah.
Krivlov.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you second, third generation American? I mean, where are you?
I am third generation. Oh, my grandparents
You're
were born
Russian, dude. You're American. Get out of here.
Yeah.
You're American. Borscht soup is too far from you now.
No, yeah, I have no connection. My grandparents were born in Brooklyn, so
See?
yeah.
That's what I say. So when you said pasta, I'm like, dude's not talking about borscht. He's not looking at Russian food. He's looking for Italian. He's too Americanized. Oh wow, Italian being American. Brooklyn, for all you know, around the world, I've been to Brooklyn. Brooklyn was a big Italian neighborhood for a long time.
Still is.
Still a long time. I mean, like people used to buy their houses around the Salamonia, which is the Italian pork store. They'd have to have one near them so they can walk to get their products to go home to cook. No joke. On that note, thank you again, Mr. Kriv. Next week, we have K-Class from the UK. K-Class is coming to tell us all about their stories, the rise to fame, all the commercial records, all the success, and also the roller coaster ride to fame and down and up and all around. So every week, right here on Facebook Live, YouTube, we podcast, and thank you all for tuning in and sharing. And thank you, Mr. Kriv, for giving us the science, the knowledge, and also knowing now how multi-talented, multiverse you are. Have a great week, everyone, a great weekend. Be safe. Remember, wear your mask. Stay vigilant. Peace.